Okay, sorry folks. The internet's not working here very well. Sorry, the internet's not working here very well. Again, welcome. Shalom, Matsu Valley Messianic Congregation. Welcome here at the Crossroads, the shopping plaza here at Crossroads off Bogard. Welcome Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, Tuesday evenings for Torah study and prayer. And again, on Sabbath, 4 p.m., welcome for our Shabbat service. And it's at Crossroads behind Miller's in the Journey Church, in the Journey signs. So welcome here Shabbat at 4 and Sabbath, and Tuesday evenings at 7 for Torah study and prayer. So we'll get going again. I don't know if this will go off. I pray it doesn't. Lord be with us and help us. Okay. We are in Leviticus. Again, we're going to be in Leviticus 12:1 through 15:33. Leviticus 12:1 through 15:33. Okay. It's about body functions and cleanliness, and the bottom line is God had a good hygiene program. Yeah. That's the bottom line for this, folks. As far as leprosy goes, it's not the leprosy of like we word it or of today. But God had a very good cleansing program, a very good hygiene program already in place. He was far above science. He was far advanced before science even came into being with his laws. Because he knows it. He created the body. He created everything.
It was good infection control.
Yes. Like my wife says, who is just so intelligent. It's great infection control, like she said. So, and that's what this is. Okay. So we'll start right away. And Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel. 12:1, Leviticus 12:1, saying, when a woman has conceived and has given birth to a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. As in the days of her monthly separation, she is unclean. Okay. And on the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin is circumcised. So you have the Abrahamic covenant continuing here. All right. Verse 4, and she remains in the blood of her cleansing 33 days. Now, is this 33 days plus 7, which would equal 40? Is that how that is worded? It seems like to me, so 40 days. So again, 40 is a very important number. All right. 3 is a number of revelation. So we got double revelation, 33 days. And of course, we know that 7 is a number of perfection. All right. She does not touch whatever is holy, and she does not come into the holy place until the days of her cleansing are complete. Why is that? Just stop and think about it. Okay. I think God wanted her to rest. I think God wanted her to stay in bed, nurse the child. This is all planned by God. It's not a bad thing for a woman. It is a great thing.
Doesn't say she had to stay in bed.
Doesn't say she had to stay in bed. I know that, but I'm
good to stay in bed that long.
I'm just saying, God was protecting her from being overworked.
Yes.
And protecting her from, from a lot of things. So
yeah, and then protecting the baby from being
right,
exposed.
And protecting the baby from being exposed. So, yeah, It would be lovely. Yes, it would, wouldn't it? Okay. So God is not this old man sitting up there that's a male chauvinist pig and has all these laws for just women and not men. You will see here, if men had body issues, he was supposed to go through the same process. All right. So God is not against women. Actually, you can look at it vice versa, in which I think God intended. He's for the women to be rested and for her to regain her strength. And even if it meant staying home from going to the temple, all right, going to church, going to Sabbath, he wanted the women to be rested. That's how I see it. That's how I would say. So, but if she give birth to a female child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her monthly separation, and she remains in the blood of her cleaning for 66 days. Okay? So a girl child is doubly important. Is doubly blessed. Is double blessed. That's how you would say it. And when the days of her cleansing are complete, for a son, for a daughter, she brings to the priest a lamb, a year old, as an ascending offering, as a young pigeon or turtle dove, as a sin offering, to the door of the tent of appointment. And she shall bring it before Adonai and make atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from her flow of her blood. This is the Torah for her who has given birth to a male or a female. And if she's not able to bring a lamb, then she shall bring 2 turtle doves, as in Mary did, right? Remember Mary brought 2 turtle doves? Okay, when Yeshua was born? 2 turtle doves are 2 young pigeons, one an ascending offering and the other a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be cleaned. All right. Pretty simple. Okay, nothing hard about this. Nothing bad about this. This is just the law. Okay? Now we know Yeshua is our sacrifice. It was our sacrifice. And so we can go to him, right? And we can honor him. I would say these are a special 66 days of a woman getting closer to the Lord. That's how I would see it. I would see her, or 33 days, getting closer to the Lord with her child, with her children, and okay, taking things to the Lord, cleansing our thoughts, our minds, along with our body. Okay, it's a spiritual thing. It wasn't just a bodily thing they were supposed to do. It was a spiritual. Remember, the spiritual realm is more real than the physical realm. Okay, and so this is all spiritual. It's about drawing close to the Lord, especially during childbirth and after childbirth. It's all about growing closer to the Lord. I think a lot of times when women have problems, it's because they didn't draw close to the Lord at the time. Okay, it's a set apart time. Verse 13. And Adonai spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, when a man has on the skin of his body a swelling, a scab, or a bright spot, and it should become on the skin of his body, and like leprous infection. Okay.
Chapter 13, not verse.
Yeah, I'm on chapter 13. I'm sorry, not verse 13. Then he shall be brought to Aaron and the priest, or to one of his sons, the priest. And the priest shall look at the infection on the skin of the body. And if the hair of the infection is turned white, and the infection appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is a leprous infection, and the priest shall look at it and pronounce him unclean. So look at this. The priest had to play roles here. He had to be like a medical doctor almost.
Yeah.
You see how the medical field is connected to the spiritual?
Yeah.
And how the enemy will use, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, how the enemy will use the spiritual with the physical medical field to release havoc. Okay? In which he's doing today with abortion, with transplants, with all this stuff that's going on. Unnecessary. If people got in touch with God and lived for God and so forth and so on. He would help with the physical. Whenever you have a physical ailment, go to God first. Okay? Go to God first. And let him allow him to speak to you. All right? Okay. Verse 4, but if the bright spot is white on the skin of his body and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and his hair has not turned white, then the priest shall shut up the infection or shut up the infected 7 days. So he had to go into isolation for 7 days. Okay? Because he didn't want infections to spread. And the priest shall look at him on the 7th day and see if the infection appears to be as it was an infection and has not spread on the skin. The priest shall shut him up another 7 days. Verse 6, and the priest shall look at him again on the 7th day and see if the infection has darkened and the infection has not spread on the skin. Then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is a scab, and he shall wash his garments and be clean. Notice the garments are washed too. Okay? The garments are washed too. Because in the spiritual realm, things rest on physical elements. Okay? That's why when you go to Africa on a mission trip, or if you go to another country on a mission trip where there is, for say, Voodoo and Buddhist and all this other stuff, you have to be careful what you bring home. Okay? No matter what it is, you have to be careful. It can be all good meaning, but the spiritual enemy is at work, and he rests on spiritual. Spiritual things are on physical things, all right? Okay. Verse 7, but the scab spreads farther over the skin, and after it has been seen by the priest for its cleansing, he shall be seen by the priest again. And the priest shall look and see if the scab is spread on the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the infection of leprosy is on the man, then he shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall look and see if the swelling is on the skin is white and has turned the hair white, and there is a spot of raw flesh in the swelling. It is an old leprosy on the skin of his body, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He does not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if the leprosy breaks out all over the skin, and the leprosy shall cover all the skin of the infected one from his head to his foot, wherever the priest looks. Then the priest shall look and see if the leprosy has covered all his body. He shall pronounce the infected one clean. It has all turned white. He is clean. But the day raw flesh appears on him, he is unclean. So, yeah. So if you see raw flesh, he's unclean. And the priest shall look, verse 15, at the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean. And the raw flesh is unclean, it is leprosy. Or when the raw flesh changes and turns white again, he shall come to the priest. And the priest shall look at him and see if the infection has turned white. Then the priest shall pronounce the infected one clean. He is clean. And when the body has a boil in the skin and it is healed, in the place of the boil there comes a white swelling or a bright spot, reddish white, then he shall be seen by the priest. And the priest shall look and see if it appears deeper than the skin, and if the hair has turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprous infection when it has broken out of the boil. But if the priest looks at it and sees no white hairs in it, it is not deeper than the skin, but the faded, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it is spread farther over the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is leprosy infection. But if the bright spot stays in its skin, it is not spread. It is a scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. When the body receives a burn on the skin by fire, and the raw flesh of the burn shall become a bright spot, reddish white or white, then the priest shall look at it and see that the hair of the bright spot is turned white. And if it appears deeper than the skin, it is leprosy broken out in the burn. And the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous infection. What I get here, what happens when you get a serious burn? You could get infection. So I know it translated leprous, but I think it's just talking mostly about getting an infection, a bad infection. It's using the term leprous for everything. And so I personally believe that it wasn't translated quite well. I mean, there is leprosy, there was leprosy, and of course we know that in Yeshua's time, or back in this time. Today, it's pretty much, it's hardly any leprosy, but it's easily curable by antibiotics. All right. Where was I?
29, I think.
29. And when a man or woman has an infection on the head or in the beard, then the priest should look at the infection and see if it appears deeper than the skin. If there is thin yellow hair in it, and then the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and it is an eruption, a leprosy of the head or beard. So he's got an infection again. Verse 32, and on the seventh day, the priest shall look at the infection, see if the eruption has not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and the eruption does not appear deeper than the skin. Then he shall shave himself, but the eruption he does not shave. And the priest shall shut him up, the one with the eruption, another 7 days. And on the seventh day, the priest shall look at the eruption and see if the eruption has not spread over the skin. It does not appear deeper than the skin. Then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his garments, and he shall be clean. So again, wash the garments. Okay. Verse 35, but if the eruption spreads farther over the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look at him and see if the eruption has spread over the skin. The priest need not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the eruption appears to have stayed, and there's black hair growing up in the eruption, has healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Verse 38, and when a man or woman has bright spots on the skin of the body, white bright spots, then the priest shall look at it and see if the bright spots on the skin of the body are dull white. If it is a white spot that grows on the skin, he is clean. And when a man loses the hair of his head and he is bald, he is clean. All right. Praise the Lord for bald men. Okay. And if the hair has fallen from his forehead, he is bald on the forehead, he is clean. And when there is on the bald head or a bald forehead a reddish white infection, it is leprosy breaking out on his bald head or his bald forehead. And the priest shall look at it and see the swelling of the infection is reddish white on his bald head or on the bald forehead, as the appearance of leprosy on the skin of the body. He is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. Without fail, his infection is on the head. As for the leper who has the infection, his garments are torn, and his head is uncovered, and he has covered his upper lip, and cry, unclean, unclean. He is unclean. All the days he has the infection, he is unclean. He is unclean, and he dwells alone, and his dwelling place is outside the camp. And when the garment has an infection, leprosy in it, in his woolen garment or linen garment, or in the warp or in the weft of the linen or wool or leather or in the leather work, and the infection shall be greenish or reddish in the garment or the leather, or in the warp or in the weft or in the leather object, it is an infection of leprosy and shall be shown to the priest. Okay. And the priest shall look at the infection and shut up the infection 7 days. And he shall look at the infection on the seventh day. And when the infection is spread in the garment or in the warp or in the weft or in the leather or in the leather work, the infection is an act of leprosy. It is unclean. Okay. Verse 52, and he shall burn the garment or the warp or the weft in wool or linen or in a leather object in which the infection is. For as an act of leprosy, it is burned with fire. Boy, now can you imagine all of us getting an infection in our arm or on our leg or somewhere in our body, and then we have to turn around and burn the clothes. They couldn't wash it. They had to burn it. All right? They had to burn it. They didn't just wash their garments in hot water and Tide. They had to burn their garments. But if the priest looks and see that the infection has no spread in the garment or in the warp or in the weft or any in the leather object, verse 54, then the priest shall give command, and they shall wash that which the infection is, and he shall shut it up another 7 days. And the priest shall look at the infection after it has been washed and see if the infection has not changed its appearance. Though the infection has not spread, it is unclean and is burning in the fire. It is eaten away in its inside or outside. And the priest shall look and see that the infection is faded away, washing it. Then he shall tear it out of the garment or out of the warp or out of the weft or out of the leather. And if it's still seen in the garment or in the warp or the weft or in the leather object, it is a spreading infection. Burn it with fire, that which is the infection is. And if you wash the garment or the warp or the weft or the leather object, if the infection has disappeared from it, then it shall be washed a second time and shall be clean. So even though it disappeared the first time, you're supposed to wash it again. Okay? Make sure it's clean. This is Torah, the infection of leprosy in the garment of wool or linen or in the warp or in the weft or in any leather object, to pronounce it clean or pronounce it unclean. Okay. Chapter 14. Okay. And Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, this shall be the Torah of the leopard for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest. And the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look and see if the leprosy is healed in the leper. And the priest shall command, he shall take for him who is to be cleansed 2 live and clean birds, cedar wood, and scarlet and hyssop. Okay. Now, the rabbis of today and of yesterday say this was considered about gossip and slander. They consider gossip and slander very evil. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But they take this leprosy as a result of gossip and slander. We shouldn't gossip and slander anyways, no matter what. That's what chapter 14 is about, gossip and slander. How they make the connection, I don't know. And the priest shall command, verse 5, and he shall slay one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water, and let him take the live bird and the cedar wood and the scarlet and hyssop, and dip them and the live bird in the blood of the bird that was slain over the running water. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the live bird loose in the open field. Reminds me a lot of the scapegoats.
Yeah.
So it reminds me a lot of the scapegoats on the Day of Atonement.
Scapegoat 1, scapegoat.
Yep, scapegoat 1 and scapegoat 2. And he who is cleansed shall be washed his garments, and shall shave off his hair, and wash himself in water, and shall be clean. Then after that he comes into the camp, but shall stay outside his tent 7 days. You notice something? 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. 7 days. 7. It's all the number 7. Verse 9, on 7th day it shall be that he shaves all his hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows, even all his hair he shaves off. Okay, that's referring all the hair of the body. So this guy is a hairless man. So all the hair from head to toe. Okay? From head to toe. Okay. And he shall wash his garments and wash his body in water, and shall be clean. Verse 10, and on the 8th day he takes 2 male lambs, perfect ones, and 1 ewe lamb, a year old, a perfect one, and 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. And the priest who is cleansing shall present the man who is to be cleansed